Hello, my name is Steve Gearhart, and this is the Unagi Observer. Today's topic has to do with the deities tied to death, known as the Shimigami. Now, when one says Shimigami these days, we think about the anime Death Note and its main death god known as Ryuk. But would you associate the word Shimigami with a children's puppet show instead of a gothic anime? Now, the interesting thing is that the actual word Shimigami was not widely used in Japan until almost the 1900s. It appears that the first real mention of Shimigami came about in a puppet play that was popular in the early 1700s. Normally, when one referenced death, it was usually in the form of an actual deity, not in the style of a reaper, or for Christians as an angel of death. And even then, there really wasn't an actual god of death. Keep in mind that there are several forms of Buddhism. Most forms don't have any deities, actually, or it's just a single powerful being. Most of the time, Buddhism deals with prophets, so the idea of a Shimigami in Buddhism is pretty remote or pretty rare. Even in Shinto, there really aren't any death gods or spirits. That isn't to say that in neither Shinto or Buddhism there weren't beings that dealt with death. It's just that the usherance of the death, or the transportation to the underworld, is just one aspect of a being's purpose. So, in the early 1700s, the word Shimigami came into being. It was simply a statement or a reference of a god who dealt in death, but there was no real name to the person or to the being. Shimigami became popular in children's puppet shows called Nyanko Jori. They were simply characters who came in and whisked away other characters to get them off the scene. However, Japan's version of Shakespeare, the guy, a very popular dramatist named Chikamatsu Monozemon, if you're a Naruto fan, that name sounds familiar because that's the name of the ninja puppet master. He used Shimigami to great effect in his dramas. Chikamatsu Monozemon wrote a lot about double suicides, usually in connection to matters of honor or love. In these stories, he would take old folk tales of beings who would possess or enter another human being to entice them into a certain type of death, a gruesome suicide involving another person. Kind of like how the Death Note would work. The Shimigami Ryuk in the Death Note anime has a thing called a Death Note, a book where he can influence how a human dies. Like the folk tales, he cannot be seen, but his presence can be felt, and with certain aid from unwitting humans, like Light Yagami, these beings, now known as Shimigami, can run amok, causing chaos, mayhem, and pain for the Shimigami's own benefit. They're really greedy people. If you watch the anime, you can tell how Ryuk kind of does everything to his own benefit. So, in the 1700s, as these stories gained popularity, the word Shimigami then spread throughout Japan. The idea of a Shimigami became very popular during and right after World War II, as shrines to the war dead started appearing all over Japan. It was hoped that the Shimigami would find the spirit of the slain soldier and guide him back to the home islands to rest peacefully once both the Shimigami and the soldier's soul entered the proper shrine. Which brings us to our favorite Shimigami of recent time, Ryuk. While the idea of a dying underworld filled with bored Shimigami gambling their years away is a good plot device for the Death Note anime, little is actually known in classical writings where the Shimigami comes from or what their origin is. All we know is that to meet a Shimigami is most likely going to result in a really, really bad day. Alright, enough of this talk of death and suicide. Again, please take a look at the Unagi Observer anime contest rules and let's make this happen. Again, my name is Steve Gearhart. This is the Unagi Observer. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week.